The fifth insight, the message of the mystics.
What was your understanding of the last insights you read?
That humans are stuck in a kind of competition for each other's energy. When we can get others to acquiesce to our view, they identify with us, and that pulls their energy into us, and we feel stronger.
So the problem is that everyone is trying to control and manipulate each other for energy because we feel short of it.
That's right.
But there is a solution. Another source of energy?
That's what the last insight implied.
In the fifth insight, there was a recap of the first four insights. So the first insight obviously was that coincidences are synchronistic events, and that your life is a grand story. And that as you begin to see events not as coincidences, but as this big, grand, long storyline, then the adventure of your life can begin. Every moment is the story unfolding. Second insight, obviously, is to understand history, and a major concept is the preoccupation of material survival, and wake up to it, to our new awareness of existence. Third insight is the Force from Star Wars. The universe is full of energy, and it responds to how we think. Our frontal lobe is a reality-producing device. We are reality-creating machines. And the universe is there to respond to our wishes. It's like the law of attraction, the secret, but also that, and the Force from Star Wars. So this energy is out there, and it's up to us to tap into it. And to tap into it instead of using the scarce human-to-human energy, which leads us to the fourth insight. The fourth insight shows us how we steal energy from each other, and we attempt to control people. Person-to-person energy is scarce, but there is a universal energy that has abundance, and as soon as humanity begins to tap into the universal abundance of energy, the faster we can move forward, because we won't be stealing energy from each other. The fifth insight suggests that the universe can provide all the energy that we need if we can only tap into it and open up to it. Part of it is recognizing the mystical experiences and figuring out how we can become conscious of it and learn how to harness these powers and make it a part of everyday life. Sometimes we get in the zone and we get connected, but then we get pulled back down. We just got to harness these powers, become conscious of it when it's happening, to roll with it, not to be frightened by it.
It described a new understanding of what has long been called mystical consciousness. During the last decades of the 20th century, it stated that this consciousness would become publicized as a way of being that is actually attainable, a way that has been demonstrated by the more esoteric practitioners of many religions. For most, this consciousness would remain an intellectual concept to be only talked about and debated. But for a growing number of humans, this consciousness would become experientially real, because these individuals would experience flashes or glimpses of this state of mind during the course of their lives.
And then there's other things like, Nikola Tesla used to but he proposed that the planet Earth has its own frequency charge in itself, and that we could tap into that power and transmit free energy all across the globe. There are many scientists at the turn of the 20th century, that all believed in an ether, and there's still a lot of discussion about an ether being out there. And if there's this ether energy out there, how do we tap into it? And maybe that concept has been actively suppressed so that they could continuously charge for centrally produced electricity. Some of the ideas that were expressed in the fifth insight discussed lightness, formation of the universe, the oneness with the universe, that the universe is my body, that the universe is not solid, looking inward for the truth. And there was a description of the visualization of evolution, suggestions to appreciate the beauty of nature, allow love to enter. But again, one of the main concepts were that mystical experiences are hard to duplicate, and so appreciate them while they're happening. There were some techniques described on how to focus your attention on the trees and the plants, to admire the shape and color. And when you begin to do that, the transfer of energy then begins. So the fifth insight is about mystical experiences and how to acknowledge, appreciate, and hopefully experience more of them. For food appreciation, appreciate the taste to absorb the most amount of energy. Suggest to grow your own food and transfer the love and energy to it. The deliberate appreciation of food may be the original reason for saying grace prior to eating. And then once you learn to take in the energy from food, you can then learn to increase your personal energy, and then you can begin to do this with all things. Science can only prove what science can prove, but there are many paranormal things that happen that, because we can't capture consistently, we can't acknowledge as a real thing. However, almost every human has had some form of a paranormal, supernatural experience that they've been ridiculed about if they shared it, and so they put it out of their minds, and we as humans lose out on that information. There's almost a notion that science has figured it all out already, but yet new scientific discoveries are made on a daily basis. And we need to be aware of that so that when we have these new experiences, to not discard them, because these are those experiences that let us tap into the potential, the human potential movement. While science is tremendously important and has given us all of the things that we have, there are things that science cannot explain yet. And so with the fifth insight, with this awareness of it, those who are aware of it are like the field testers that are finding out these new paranormal experiences. And the more we embrace that, and the more we acknowledge it, and the more aware we are of it, so that we can develop techniques to recreate it, the more we can provide to science this information, and then science can find a way to quantify and reproduce it. But if we aren't aware that we are capable of more than the five sense reality, and we don't embrace that, then we will be stuck in the old paradigm of just what science has provided us up until this point. But the fifth insight says, let's be aware that there's a lot more out there. So that's the fifth insight, Message of the Mystics. Subscribe to this channel so that you could be notified when we discuss the sixth insight, Clearing the Past.